Hello everyone, it's Michelle here from Michelle Fleur Art, and today I want to talk to you about re-enchanting your art practice. And what that means is bringing the magic back to art making. So if you're feeling like your practice is a little bit dry lately, a little bit stale, and you're not just feeling that kind of fairy dust around you, then maybe this video is for you. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I do in the studio to help me feel that kind of magic, and also some things that I've stopped doing, which has helped a lot in making me feel like, oh, this is nice, just that nice kind of mysterious, magical feeling. Firstly, I want to talk about some of the things that you can do in the studio or in your physical space to make it feel just that little bit more magical. I like to burn some incense, which seems so naff and silly, but it just kind of sets a mood in my studio. And it's also a little ritual that I can perform before I start to sit down to create or work on whatever I've got to work on for that day. It's simple, it's quick. I don't think of it as a ritual, but it just means that it's something that I do to start the session in the studio. And I have this beautiful incense that I love, which is made in my home state. And I don't know, this smell, I wish you could smell it. It is like sweet, but not too sweet, like sweet and earthy. Yeah, so that's one thing that I do. Another thing I've been doing is I got a CD player and I play CDs in the studio. Uh, this might seem crazy in this time when I can just press a button on my phone and play whatever music I like, but I find I like listening to a whole album, and it takes me through like a story or a feeling or a mood. And if I play Spotify or whatever, I often don't listen to like a whole album. I'll just listen to a couple of songs or a genre of music, and I'll have like a playlist or I'll click on somebody else's playlist. But to listen to a CD, a whole CD can really create a vibe, and I just love it. I've got a big CD shelf with CDs that I collected before we stopped collecting CDs, and I pop them on, and it's just I can just drift away to another world and another place and another time, and yeah, it really brings magic to the studio. Another thing you can do in your physical space: add some fairy lights, add some decoration, add a little bit of wonder. I am a very visual person, so I have a lot of visual, what some people might call clutter around me, but they're things that I like to look at. So there's lots of inspiration in my studio, things that I've picked up, free postcards or prints from other artists at markets or something, things that I've printed off, that I've seen online, pictures I've found in op shops. What else have I got? I've got heaps of stuff. I mean, if you've watched my videos, you've seen my studio. So there's lots of little trinkets and things, usually the things that I don't have in other parts of my house, the slightly unusual things. The things that nobody else really gets. They all end up in my studio, and it creates this little nest, this little haven that I want to be in. And it really sets me in a mood, and in my creating mood, because I do have a creating mood. So it's nice to come in here, be surrounded by my things, listening to nice music, having that, incensey smell that I love. All of these things set a mood and a vibe, and it just adds this lovely kind of uh, fairy dust to my practice. Another thing I like to do or like to have in my studio, which just creates a little bit of magic, is I have an armchair in my studio where if I'm feeling a little bit frustrated or a little bit meh, I'll just go and sit in the armchair with a cuppa and a book and just chill out for a little while, look around my studio, look at what's going on, think, what am I doing today? Where do I want to go? How do I want to proceed with this piece? Am I really feeling what I'm doing at the moment? Do I love what I'm doing at the moment? It's not always essential to love what you are doing, but for me, it's a very important part of my practice. Another thing, which is going to sound incredibly naff, and I have to say that I haven't done this for a very long time, is to read some poetry. I feel a bit weird even saying that, like it's very corny, but we don't do this anymore. When I was younger, I used to read poetry all the time. I could recite to you The Lady of Shalott, and I don't think I can do that anymore. I knew the poem. it was it was beautiful. I loved it, the whole romance of it. And I don't know if it's life or getting older, or I have my suspicion that it's more likely the world that we live in right now, and the devices we're on, and just not being absorbed in books as often. But I've really gotten away from that. And this is something that I really want to do more often now, is read poetry and look up new poets and really absorb myself into the written word, because the written word can just bring so much magic. And you know the feeling when you are in a good book and it is just so absorbing. It just takes you completely into another world and activates a part of your brain that I think film can't do and the moving image can't do. So yeah, let's not just say poetry, let's say reading in general. Reading really, really helps bring a lot of magic. And I would also add to that, I think audiobooks are really good as well. They can really create a mood. I love listening to audiobooks when I'm making, and I can get really absorbed in them. I've listened to quite a few on myths, mythology, Greek mythology in particular lately, and it is fantastic. I am just in that world, and yeah, I love it. These really help me in my Hymn to Her series, my series on female archetypes in folklore and mythology. Yeah, they really help me to set the mood, especially when I'm working on a particular piece and I'm listening to something about the figure that I'm working on. I just love that. Another thing that I've been doing to bring the magic back to my practice is research. This may seem obvious, but I had stopped researching. But I've tried to create some pathways in my work now where research is required. So, for example, with my Hymn to Her series, which I've spoken about quite a bit, I'm looking at female archetypes in folklore and mythology. And so I get to do a deep dive on that subject. I get to listen to podcasts, read books, um, look up images of ancient Greek art, uh, and read history, all kinds of things. Like it's fabulous. And I'm taking notes in my notebook and I'm forming this kind of compendium of research that I've been doing. I haven't done this for so long and it feels really good. Like it's creating some juice for my art. It feels like it has more substance because I'm doing this. So if you haven't done that kind of research for a while, I really recommend it. It has brought a lot back to my practice. For many years, I was just creating images without really thinking about why I was creating those images or without doing much research at all, just basic level research. And I'm finding that this new way of working, well, it's not a new way of working, it's a really old way of working, actually. And I'm sure artists did it a lot before the internet. Um, but it just has made my whole practice feel a lot more juicy, a lot more embedded with magic. And when I say magic, I mean, uh, that kind of um, unexplainable energy. Yeah, research. Sounds obvious, but do you do it? I don't know. Maybe you do. But I would recommend it. Doing a deep dive on a subject, it's really helpful. Here I want to talk about things that I'm not doing to make my practice a little more magical. Things that I've stopped doing, things that I have found block me feeling that kind of magic. And the first one is probably very obvious to everyone, but I really try to minimize the amount of social media I look at in my studio. I have found that the more I look at social media, the more drained of magic, the more zapped of magic I get. It's a funny thing. I'll often go on there to look for inspiration. Sometimes it's too much, or sometimes the inspiration is too similar, and everything kind of becomes the same. Everything starts to look the same. I don't know if other people feel that, if other people kind of have experienced this phenomenon where you look at so much and then everything just melds into itself and just leaves you kind of stunned. And it leads to a complete lack of inspiration, actually. I really, really feel that minimizing the amount of social media I watch in the studio helps so much. It is my number one thing on the list, actually. I'm old enough to remember what life was like before social media. And I think this is why sometimes I pine for this kind of feeling of magic, because you would often spend a lot of time in your head, deep in your thoughts, imagining, and they would come from you. You know, they weren't coming from this little device, they were coming right from your darkest parts of your mind. And I really miss that, actually. I can't say that I've felt that way in a very long time. And lately I've been pining for it. I really want to feel that kind of imagination again, where you just get lost in your thoughts. And sometimes it's boring as batshit not to be constantly stimulated by these little devices all the time. It can be so boring, but out of boredom, the best ideas come. I think anyone who has worked with young children know this, that their imaginations are just freaking wild, man. They just go off on these strange tangents, and we can do that too. It's just a matter of tapping in, or actually maybe tapping out of these devices. So, yeah, that's number one on my list, is minimizing the amount of social media. Social media, number one. Let's minimize it, people. Let's cut it down. So, number two on my list, something that I am blocking out, is too much news. I like to stay informed. I am one of those people who is really interested in politics. I think it's very important to stay abreast of current affairs and what's going on. But having said that, we are just bombarded with news constantly. We're bombarded with news, we're bombarded with people's opinions on the news, we're bombarded by some person who lives on the other side of the world who, you know, do we really need to know their opinion? I don't know. So I'm really trying to minimize the amount of news I watch. So that is number two on my list. Just watch the news essentials. If you're not a news person, good for you. I think that's great. If you can just block it all out, good for you. Fantastic. And finally, my final piece of advice to bring magic back to your studio and your art practice would be, get the hell out of your art studio every now and then. Get out into the world, experience life, go for long walks, poke at sticks, poke at the earth, you know, examine a bug, lie on the grass, look at the clouds, do all those things. Go for a swim in the ocean, just be in nature, be outside. I mean, it doesn't even have to be outside. You can go to your local shopping centre, sit on a bench, watch people walk by, observe life. Observe life. Because isn't that what art is all about? It's about observing life, real life, being in the world, existing in the world. I think I just had my own aha moment. This is what it's all about. It's about observing, bringing that back, reinterpreting the world through our creative practice. So I would really, really encourage you to do that at least once a week, at least once a week. I try to go for a walk every day. It doesn't always happen, but I am really conscious of getting out in the world and letting things kind of fall on me. Just letting things kind of sink in, sitting and observing with no point in mind, just watching, you know, watching that boring bird that no one cares about, watching a little centipede crawl across the concrete, um, watching some leaves blowing in the wind, the shadows that they make, hearing sounds, smells. Yeah, all of that stuff is so important, and it's what life is made of. And it's so easy to forget that it's about being present. And making art is also about being present. And we need to get back to that, just being here now in the moment. I sound like a guru. But you get what I'm putting down, right? Yeah, you picking that up? Good. Thank you so much for listening. If you got something out of that, please give me a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I will be stoked. If you didn't get anything out of that, I'm sorry that you watched the whole thing. That was nuts. You should be outside enjoying the world. But yeah, thanks, guys. This one was really fun one for me to do. I've just waxed lyrical, but yeah, I really, really hope that just by shedding light onto the things I do, that maybe it can provoke some ideas in you or make you assess. Are you feeling the magic, and do you want to bring some of that magic back into your practice or into your life in general? So, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers. Peace out. Bye.